All right, it's time to talk about the Lethal Weapon franchise since it is Christmas time and this is one of my favorite action franchises. And when I've stacked it up against the Die Hard franchise, I do find this to be the better of the franchises. Now, the first Lethal Weapon I don't think is as good as Die Hard, but it's damn near close. But I'm just talking about the series as a whole. I'm a big fan of the Lethal Weapon franchise, 1 through 4. I don't feel like they've made any bad films by any means. And I have not seen the Lethal Weapon TV series that they made. I think they did like 2 seasons, and the rigs of that show was impossible to work with, so they had to like fire him and then replace him, and then who fucking knows. I never saw it, but people seem to love it, so that's cool. Maybe one day I will check it out. Now, Danny Glover's only 41 years old in this movie. He's supposed to be playing 50. To think that Danny Glover's only like 3 years older than me in this movie, and he's like, I'm getting too old for this shit, and he's like the old man of the movie. I will say this, though. I just watched all 4 of them back to back, and Danny Glover looks like zero different in any of these movies. It's fucking crazy. He looks damn near the same as he does in the first as he does in the fourth. It's pretty wild. It really is. And Mel Gibson, on the other hand, ages pretty considerably from the first to the fourth, no doubt about it. And Mel is only 31 here, so Mel is almost 10 years younger than me in this movie. Man, it's just another one of those things where it's like, either people looked older back then, or I think I look younger than I do. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, when I look at this, I'm like, oh, these are like men, and I'm still like young, and it's like, I don't think that's the case anymore. So we've got Richard Donner directing all 4 of these. That's why we have a consistency throughout these. Not that bringing a director in for all of your projects can keep consistency. Sometimes, it doesn't work out, much like Steven Spielberg directing The Kingdom of the Lost Skull, or Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull. I'm combining fucking names of franchises there. Or titles within the franchise. You know what I'm getting at. But yeah, Richard Donner does a fantastic job here. Donner has done some great shit, but Lethal Weapon is definitely his pinnacle of his career for me, for sure. Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Tom Atkins, Gary Busey. And man, this movie really is just so great. It's so great. And yeah, I mean, why this one isn't brought up alongside of Die Hard as a Christmas movie is beyond me. If everyone's going to be fighting for Die Hard to be that Christmas movie, which, as I said before, it's just such a stupid argument, who cares? But if you're going to have that argument, why is Lethal Weapon not on the table as well? I don't understand that. Because this is loved just as much as Die Hard. It accompanies Die Hard. Being that they are from the same producers and have aesthetical, similarities and reoccurring actors and whatnot. I don't know, it's weird to me that Lethal Weapon isn't thrown into there. Now, this is the director's cut I have here, and the director's cut to me is superior, because they take out a couple key scenes that I feel like give us a really good insight to where Riggs is in this film. And I think they cut them for sensitivity reasons. One is him picking up a prostitute who's underage, and he says to her, "The younger, the better." Now, we're led to believe he doesn't bang her, and I definitely believe that to be true. But the line, the younger the better, doesn't look so good when he's picking up a hooker, and then he's like, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 16 or something, and she's like, oh, the younger the better. That it doesn't bode well. But that being said, I do like that scene plays out the way it does, because Riggs is just lonely and he wants somebody to watch the Three Stooges with. And because she's younger, I take that as like, she's gonna enjoy this more. Now, there's all sorts. Riggs is fucked in this movie. I mean, he's mentally just gone. So I don't think he's thinking of the morality of this. He's not thinking about this girl's future. He's not like this little poor fucking like young ass girl is out on the streets hooking, and he's just turning it into this good thing for her. I don't know. I just like where it shows us where his head's at that time. Like, he just doesn't want to be alone. He'll pick up a hooker. He doesn't care what age she is. He doesn't care how bad it looks. Any of that shit. So there you go. The movie starts with Christmas music, and it shows Christmas. And this girl, she jumps off of a freaking building. Ends up being Tom Atkins' daughter. She commits suicide. It's pretty sad. And you know, when I was a kid, I used to think that was Riggs' wife, and it wasn't until later, until I grew up, that I realized that wasn't his wife. I'm obviously not paying that close of attention to these movies when I was a kid, but because he's so broken up about the death of his wife, and when they show the picture, she's a blonde, I was like, oh, that's his wife who kills herself in the opening. And it's like, no, it isn't. We find out, obviously, that she died in a car wreck. And then in the second one, we find out she was actually killed by some guy who was trying to kill Riggs. So that's, you know, something that they wrote into the second one as kind of a, like a kind of retcon. But it just adds more to it, and it's supposed to make us hate the guy more. Shane Black wrote this. This is like his first script, I want to say, that he sold. Which, yeah, that's pretty awesome, because I do like Shane Black quite a bit. And now, this is a scene that's recreated later in the franchise in the third one, but Murtaugh is in the bathroom, completely naked, and his kids and his family all come in and like wish him a happy birthday when he's in the tub. This is a very awkward scene. This is a very weird scene. Now, they kind of retcon, if we're going to use this again, in a way. It's not an actual retcon, but they actually kind of like address an issue to where Trish, his wife, comes in, grabs a towel, you know, or, well, you know, a little fucking whatever hand towel, and she takes it and she throws it over his dick in that scene, which makes sense. But in this one, the water looks like it's, you know, what man takes a bubble bath? This is weird. Okay, Murtaugh is taking a bubble bath. That's to cover his dick up, right? For the scene. I mean, no man takes a fucking bubble bath, especially one who, you know, is very, he's very worried about looking gay or having any homosexuality around him, as we definitely explore in part 4 with Chris Rock's character, where he's just like, I'm nothing like that, none of this and that. Like, he's very, very against being made to look lame, gay, whatever, how he would see that. And a bubble bath would definitely imply that. So yeah. And his daughter comes down in this like sexy New Year's dress, which I don't know how old Rihanna's supposed to be in this movie. I'm going to assume she's like teens, like 16, 17. And Riggs does say the younger the better, and she has this huge crush on Riggs. So when Murtaugh's pissed off at him later, thinking that he slept with Rihanna, I don't know. Maybe he has reason to be concerned for sure. Now, the whole aging thing, it's funny to have it happen in this movie because it isn't as addressed. Like, he's retiring in the other movies, but to me, and I don't know, I guess his age is addressed in every fucking movie, but this is the one where they really put some emphasis on. He's only 50. He's only 50. He's not that old. Like, 50's not that old. I mean, maybe back in 1987 or whatever this movie was, that was a little older, but 50? Pfft, that's nothing. So he's like, oh, I'm up for retirement. I'm retiring in like 2 years, so I'm gonna retire at 52. It's like, damn, that's a real young retirement. But he keeps up this whole idea that he's so old. And now this, of course, is further, you know, it doesn't work as much just because he's only 41 years old in real life. So he does feel like a very young old man in this, but he plays it well. And I think that Danny Glover has the most like contagious laugh ever. Like, I love his laugh. Every time he laughs in this or any other film he's ever been in, there's something about his laugh is just wonderful to me. And now we have the sniper scene as well. This is another scene that was cut out of the original or the theatrical cut, where Riggs comes upon a call where a sniper's shooting up a kid's school, and Riggs just kind of like walks in slow and aims his gun at the guy and shoots him, and the sniper just keeps missing him. But Riggs clearly has a death wish here. Now, I think this might have been cut for time, but I could also see this being an issue with a school shooting, although school shootings were not really all that much of a thing back in the 80s. But nowadays, I could see that getting cut out just because, you know, something like that had happened. That being said, we haven't had any kind of mass shootings ever since COVID and quarantine and lockdown has happened. So, food for thought. That's interesting because everybody's been inside, nobody's been anywhere, no one's shooting big groups of people. Isn't that funny that that's what has to happen for people to stop shooting each other in large numbers in the streets or in schools or wherever the fuck? And this this drug raid that Riggs goes on, and this is to buy Christmas trees. So this movie has tons of Christmas everywhere in it. But he goes in there and he goes to buy all the cocaine, and they're like, all right, 100, and he puts down $100 on the table. Well, he tries to. He doesn't have the actual money, and they're like, no, $100,000. That's a really funny scene. Held wrong dude hostage. What the fuck am I talking here? Oh, okay. I watched this movie like a week ago. Okay. Well, not a week, 3 or 4 days ago. I don't know. I've been knocking him out over it. Okay, so yeah, you do not hold Riggs hostage. So this guy tries to put a gun to Riggs' head, and Riggs is just like, shoot me, shoot this prick, you shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me. And he's just fucking nuts. Mel Gibson, man. Like the guy or not. And yeah, I mean, you might say he's nuts. He plays crazy better than most. I mean, he is out of his fucking mind in this. The look in his eyes that he gives in this film, he legitimately looks crazy. But yeah, when he pulls the gun and he puts it to that guy's head, and he's just like, and his eyes are just, oh my god, he's terrifying looking, right? The whole like suicide scene where he puts the gun in his mouth and he puts it into his head and all that shit, that's a great gut-wrenching suicide scene. I mean, he doesn't end up obviously doing it, but like the pain he's going through, the acting in this from Mel Gibson is phenomenal. I mean, he's not only a great director, but he's a great actor as well, man. I mean, I know the guy said some fucking terrible things and people don't like him and this and that, but the dude has talent like a motherfucker. He can act and he can direct like nobody's business. You know, Kevin Spacey might have done some terrible things, but he's a great actor. We can't take this away from people, even if we disagree with their actions. So, Mel, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of his. It's great seeing him back. Yeah, you know, I don't know. He says some shit, but I'm over it. To me, words just aren't enough. Words to me just aren't enough to fucking like, unless you know something else that I'm unaware of, that he's like fucking kids or murdering people or anything, but like saying mean shit, to me that's just not enough to ruin a guy's career or especially take his legacy away. Like, oh, now I don't support Lethal Weapon because fucking Mel Gibson said some shit against Jews. Like, words. Get the fuck out of here with words. Like, yeah, maybe I won't like the guy. I'll be like, oh, I don't agree with that. But throw his whole career away over some words? Come on. Grow the fuck up. And yeah, we get Grand Bush in here as little as a character. He plays Little Johnson in Die Hard. And we find out Riggs was an assassin in Nam, which makes sense. I love that Danny Glover says, or Murtaugh, sorry, Roger Murtaugh, says when he's going through the deadly martial arts that Riggs probably knows, he says Tai Chi. If you know what Tai Chi is, you know how funny that is. I actually practice Tai Chi. It's very relaxing. I highly recommend it for people with anxiety. Definitely look into Tai Chi. Very, very good for your anxiety. The Mr. Joshua, Gary Busey scene where he holds the lighter. Mr. Joshua, your left arm, right arm? I don't remember. One of the arms. And he just burns it, and he's in his teeth, and he's just taking it. Woo! Brutal. And I liked how Tom Atkins is like, you owe me, kill them, and he's like screaming out loud to a cop in public to kill people. And it's like, really, like, if you're gonna ask him to do this, I get it. You're overwhelmed with your anger that your daughter is dead. I completely understand that, but probably quieter ways to ask Murtaugh to kill. The Roger joke is only used one time in this entire franchise. That's shocking. So obviously, when you call over the radio, you confirm something by saying Roger, and he says Roger, and he's like, what? And he's like, no, confirm or whatever. That's a cute joke, and I'm glad that they did not go back for more. It's a complete one-off, and it's so quick that I feel like most of the audience completely misses it. Riggs handcuffing this dude, and then jumping, and you can clearly see when they jump off that building, their handcuffs aren't actually connected. There's nothing there. There's no chain at all. I thought that was interesting, but yeah, I mean, how that guy didn't see a huge fucking thing blown up below him is beyond me. This makes zero sense, but it's a movie. Who cares? And I'll tell you what, man, Murtaugh, if he was to quit his job, let's say he retires early and he wants to have another career after this, suicide prevention hotline is, an operator for that is not high on his list. He should not be hired for that. He just walks in, he's like, you crazy or what? He's like, you want to kill yourself? Do it. And he gives him the gun and everything, puts it to his head. What the fuck, man? You think a guy's genuinely suicidal? Possibly, even if there's just just a minute chance. You don't give a dude a loaded weapon, your own loaded weapon, when you were pulling him in there, mad at him, and that's the last time anybody saw you, and you pull your gun out and put it to his fucking mouth. Like, I get it. He's trying to play like, I don't buy it, I'm calling your bluff. And then Riggs very much calls his bluff, and Riggs does pull the trigger. Like, all it takes for Riggs is someone to push him. He just needs that little extra push, and he'll do it, man. He's killing himself. So Riggs did give in, and he did kill himself in this fucking movie. It's just that Murtaugh was to be there to put his finger in between, or part of his hand, whatever, between the hammer and the bullet. So that's what's crazy, that he pulled the trigger in this. He really did commit suicide. That's man, he was dedicated to it, and that makes perfect sense. The cell phones you see in this movie are hilarious. They're like the suitcase ones, if you guys were familiar with those from our childhood, or my childhood, and maybe if you're old as fuck. You got Dr. Wynn himself in here from Halloween 6, so good to see him. How Riggs gets out of the pool without boots on, he took them off because he's popping them back on, and those would be hard to get on. I mean, I need to rewind that scene to see if he pops them off really quick. I just don't understand how he gets them off before he jumps in. It's like the Titanic scene when they're accusing, or talking. They're interrogating Jack, and the bodyguard points out, for you to act so suddenly, it's very peculiar, essentially, that you were able to take off your shoes and your coat and all that. So he just kind of reminded me of that. It's like, yeah, it'd take more than a millisecond, because he jumps in almost instantly, but whatever, who cares? And I like how within a day, not only does he try to talk Riggs into killing himself, but then after he does that and Riggs saves his life after they kill a guy, because I guess this all takes place in the same day, like they've had one busy ass day, he brings Riggs home with him to dinner. A guy who he knows is suicidal, who tried to pull a trigger on himself in the house and killed a guy just that day, he brings him home to dinner. No. Just no, I'm not bringing this guy to my house. There's no fucking chance that's happening. And then Rianne's crush on him is cute. If you guys haven't seen National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, I can't not mention it because I have mentioned it in other reviews. But this is Lethal Weapon. This is the film it's most parodying. It's parodying this one, the second one, maybe the third one. I'd have to think of some of the jokes. But yeah, they really fucking go to town and make fun of so much in these, and they do it so well. And there's a scene where Rianne and him, it's kind of like that, and they're all playing footsies under the table and that shit, and then the dog gets in on it. I cannot recommend that movie enough, man. I really think it's like, it might be my favorite parody movie ever. You know, above Naked Gun, above Airplane, above them all. That Loaded Weapon has always been a favorite of mine. I think it's legitimately hilarious. I can't get enough of it. Emilio Estevez, Samuel Jackson, watch it. It's brilliant. I love that Trisha's cooking is kind of a reoccurring joke throughout the franchise. His wife's cooking is so bad. They bring it up in every fucking movie. So and it really lands. Like, a lot of the jokes actually land when they talk shit about his wife's cooking. It's pretty funny. And let's see. So the whole plot of the movie is that there's heroin being sold by ex-mercenaries, and Riggs and them are going to shut it down. You know, I'm not going to get into my beliefs on drugs, but this whole idea of like trying to get them off the street and putting so many man hours and all this shit and money and people in prison and all this to keep drugs off the street, and you can still buy cocaine anywhere, you can still buy heroin anywhere, you can still, drug addicts always find it everywhere. I just think this is so stupid, it's so pointless. But that's, you know, I just, when I watch this stuff, it's like, what are you doing? Why are all these people having to die? Why? It's just so dumb to me. Riggs takes a shotgun to the chest. Woo! I don't know if a bulletproof vest would block all of those pellets or whatever, and I don't even know if he'd survive being lifted up and thrown through a window like that. But he's a tough son of a bitch. There you go. The chemistry in this film between Riggs and Murtaugh, or Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, is what makes this franchise. It's really dependent upon that, and it is the best buddy cop movie. It's the best, you know, good cop, bad cop. It's the best buddy fucking film that you can watch, in my opinion. It's just perfect. It's that perfect blend of like the old man and the young wild card, and they're put together. It's the odd couple. This is the best iteration of that to me, and I can't get enough of their chemistry. I could watch fucking 10 more films with them with no problem at all. Rianne is kidnapped, and so they have to get her back. Now, the whole plan to get the daughter back is very ill-conceived, because there's like 40 of them, and Rig is out there with like a sniper rifle, and then Murtaugh has like a fucking smoke grenade that he's gonna throw at him. They got a gun to his daughter's head. Like, this is just a piss poor plan. It really is. It's kind of funny to me, because it's like, you know, Rig is like, you gotta trust me, man. And it's like, after I see his plan, I wouldn't be trusting shit. We get Al Leong here, who's in Die Hard. He's in Big Trouble in Little China. He's in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This dude is in everything in the 80s and the early 90s. Everything. So it's fun to see him here. And yeah, there's a lot of jokes being thrown around in here. I quite like them, for sure, but, you know, in reality, would people be joking at times like this? Probably not. And would the cops be firing guns into an open space with, you know, crowded place with civilians all around? I'm going to say no. I'm not going to say no. Otherwise, they're pretty shitty cops, to be honest. And they're firing them into the streets. And, dude, people would have died for sure. They would have killed multiple civilians. No doubt about it. And I like how Murtaugh, when Tom Atkins, who saved his life or did whatever the hell for him back in Vietnam, asks him, like, to kill this guy. He's like, you can't, I'm a cop, I'm this and that. And then when Rian's stolen, and Dr. Wynn, this is what I'm going to call him in this, tries to get away, all of a sudden he has a super fucking change of heart here, and he's like, "No way you live," and he does this neck turn thing. That's his fucking move, the neck turn. He does it in every movie, which is great. Every character should have their signature move, and his neck turn is that move. But it's like, yeah, when it's personal, all of a sudden when it's on the other side of things, it's like, oh, well, now I can kill people. No way you live, and shoots him right through the fucking window. So there you go. Now, the letter on the tree to me is a little confusing. The one that Mr. Joshua finds. It's like, hey, bad guys, we're not here, this and that. But then there's a squad car that's out front. And those are the guys that get themselves killed. So, like, did they leave that note up on the Christmas tree when they left? Like, to go get Rianne? I would assume that has to be it. But then the guards are out there, and they're like, they don't know that anybody's coming. Like, they're not really paying attention that well. I don't know. That scene just kind of makes no sense to me. Like, it kind of looks like, oh, maybe they ran there and got there and put that note up before he got there. There's no way that's possible. There's zero chance that's possible. So it has to be what I said. It just feels like these cops that are stationed outside should be on much higher alert than they are. So I feel like they kind of get them killed by not informing them better. And then, yeah, I mean, here we got the fight of the century. We've got Rig versus Mr. Joshua, and Murtaugh tells everyone to let him fight it out, and he'll take full responsibility, and he wants to just absolutely break this guy. And we got a pretty damn good fight here. Yeah, then we get the iconic double partner shot, where they're both in their jackets and they're firing together, and this is when they are now partners. Like, this is the shot that confirms they are one now. They are a unit. They are together for life. They are symbiotic, man. Simpatico. And man, is Riggs' house trashed in every one of these movies, and this one's no exception. His film's rough, and I love that this is brought up in the third one, or yeah, the third one, yeah. When Leo's trying to fucking sell his house, and he's telling him all the shit that happened there. That's pretty funny, and good callbacks to the other ones. These do all feel like they flow. They all feel like they acknowledge each other. I don't feel like anything's completely ignored or anything, which is great, and that's the way it should be. So anyways, let's move over to the second one.